Hey guys, welcome to the Parrott Bros. Now today we're going to be doing a video on pressure testing the coolant on the elderberry. Now that is because it is leaking. It's left a lovely puddle underneath. Happy New Year, by the way. Thought I'd start off with a smash. We'll get loads of videos done on this car, get it on the road, hopefully get some early year meets. Maybe we'll sneak a few in before the sun comes out, hopefully in this, but we shall see. I wanted to find the coolant leak basically before I pulled the front end off and dealt with all the PCV, dealt with all the rotten pipes. If I can prove where the leak's coming from before I take all the coolant out, let a load of air in and all that faff, if I can identify it first, it'll make my life a lot easier. So before we get stuck into it, let's jump into the intro. Right, so tools you'll need for this job, reasonably simple. Probably the most expensive one, unless you know a garage where you can pinch this and then buy them some biscuits and beers afterwards, is a pressure tester. Most of them come in a set like this, because they kind of do, one does all. It has all different types of fittings for all different cars. And then what we're going to be doing, find the one that fits, screw it in, make sure you've got some coolant in there to start with, because that helps. And then we're going to need a torch, a mirror on a little extendy, just so you can sort of poke down into holes and have a little goosey. And then we've got some brake spray and a cleaning cloth, which as you can tell I've already done some cleaning because yeah, it's pretty minging. And that's basically just to get rid of residue, just so that we're not trying to chase our tail on things that might have been a fault a while ago and not so much now. I've taken the airbox off. That's more for a little bit of access and so that I can film easier to show you guys. But besides that, relatively easy to do. What we'll start by doing is I'll get this pumped up, and it goes green into red. I'll show you in a minute. And then what we're basically doing is putting about 15 psi into the coolant system, which is about an operating pressure. Oh, it's a lot of manual labour for in the morning. Right, so we get this up to 15. I've cleaned it all already, so we should be able to see if anywhere is sweaty. Start with your main ones. Right, so that's up to 15 now. Let's transfer to the old GoPro. Okay, so there's our 15. Now what I'll do is start with the main one. So have a quick look around the bottle, make sure it's not leaking. You've got your radiator pipes here. At the top, there's also one at the bottom. So it might be worth getting it jacked up. You can have a look down, but it'll be a bit of a pain in the butt to see all the way down there. And then this is where most of the coolant pipes are held. There is your thermostat. So you see this pipe here, that's your thermostat, and you can see that through, might be a bit difficult to show you because the light in the GoPro isn't in the same place, but basically down that hole there, let me get a torch on the underneath. So down there, you can just about see it, but what you can see is some crystallization from before, but there's no water leaking out of there now. Now what you can do is get your mirror, get it set up at the right angle, and then you can use it to have a little look underneath. That's a good tip. Now what I'm going to do is have a look over here, because this is where all the wetness is. I mean, if you look, you can see all the staining from before, where it's obviously had an explosion. Now the guy who sold me this car told me there was a leak from this pipe, this metal pipe here, plastic pipe here, which holds the coolant temperature sensor, and a couple of other pipes. Now I think, if we can see this correctly, it's leaking from here. So you see there, it's wet. See it dripping off my finger? So that is our first leak sorted. Now I don't know whether there's any other leaks, I can't really see, but it's definitely leaking and running down there. So that is definitely our main fault. Now that should have an O-ring seal. You can see on the top is a bit minging. That should have an O-ring seal on it, which, so basically it sits in there as a coolant temperature sensor. This clip pulls out, this plastic clip here pulls out, and then there's a rubber O-ring which it sits against. Now they're quite an interference-y kind of fit, but you can see already, well you can see that, but there's some residue on that pipe sort of running down, and then it's running down to on top of the gearbox. So it's definitely from there. Have a quick look at your heater matrix pipes, which are the two. It's a lot easier to see when you're not filming. See these two here, these ones here, and they go up into this heat-proof stuff here, this protective stuff. So just check there. There's some joints where they come across here, I'll put a diagram up on the thing so you can see a bit better what goes where and what pipes what, so if you do diagnose it you know what to look for. But like I said, it's definitely easier with the airbox or your cone filter off or whatever. And underneath here it does look a little bit grotty. A few of the pipes look a bit rough. I'm probably going to replace most of them because they look a bit rough. Especially because that bottom one you can definitely see on top there, it's a bit rough. All the rubber's worn away where it's perished over time with oil dripping on it from the VVT solenoid and all where the gasket's leaking. Now this gasket's getting replaced, the rocker gasket, because if you remember rightly, the holes here were absolutely chocker of oil. Now obviously we've cleaned it and I've not run it since, so there's no oil left down there luckily, so we'll get them swapped out. We're also going to swap out these plugs because the clip's broken off them, so they don't actually clip down anymore. I broke this one when I took it off. It's just part of the fun. But that is about it. I mean, the problem with, look out, I don't know what you can see underneath, but there's a couple of puddles in a couple of different places, so it's not always the easiest thing to decipher because obviously it can go on top of, so the leak's here in the middle, but it's running down the gearbox to the front, it's running down the gearbox to the back, so you could look and think you might have two different leaks, but it's not, it's just where it's puddling up and leaking. You can see it's dropped a little bit of pressure already, not a lot because it's only just weeping out, but over a period of time that's enough to drain the system at the top and then give you none in your coolant bottle, and then you'll end up having issues. So finding a leak wise, it's not too bad. Swapping it over, relatively easy because a lot of the pipes are fully available. You can either get them in silicon like I did in the Nagaro one, you can swap them for the silicon hose kit. There's a couple companies that do it, Creation Motorsport, Forge do a kit. They do differ depending on whether you've got a 180, a 3.2 or a 225. You can buy kits for all of them, but sometimes you'll buy a kit with 12 hoses but you might only use 9 because they kind of make the kit to fit different brands, different models, A4s, TTs and all of that great stuff. If you found this video useful, don't forget to give it a little thumbs up and tap that subscribe button and click that bell if you want to be notified of more great lovely TT fixes and problem findings and all that kind of stuff. We're also going to swap the bottle out just because it's stained. The reason it's stained is because someone hasn't put the right amount of coolant in. They put water in, and obviously water makes it get rusty inside, then you get rusty water which comes out. Coolant will stain, but it won't be orange, it'll be pink. So that bottle's going to get swapped out, and basically when I pull the front end off, well obviously that'll be the next video or two, we're going to pull the front end off, so take the front bumper off, take this slam panel off with the headlights out, and then that allows us to get to the whole of the car, because underneath here, I'll quickly show you, is a little bit on the sweaty side. So I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but if you look at this pipe here, that is really sweaty looking. There's just staining everywhere. Then braided pipes should be nice and clean. They're not, they're like brown and horrible. And then underneath here you can just see everything looks absolutely rank. I mean, look at that pipe on top of there. There is absolutely cakes of that. Let's see if we can get a bit of that off. Look at that, look. Look at that, look. That is absolutely disgusting. So that's what we need to try and get out, because basically all that is where there's been a leak over the years, it's just built up and it's got oily and dirty, and then all that onto all the oil and dirt is stuck dust, and it's just got worse and worse. There's obviously somewhere along the lines there's a pipe leaking, and then another pipe's probably broken. It's got this lovely semi-modification hose on here which just breathes the engine down into a hole in out the back somewhere. It's got, who knows what's going on. It's got a pipe, a little rudimentary pipe here which has been taped in to the tip and then goes down and it's taped in again, so that definitely won't be ideal, and then it goes into the T and then off into the PCV system. So it's not working as it should. It should have a puck for a certain pressure allowance. This shouldn't be just vented down to the floor, so I'm probably going to fit a catch can just for ease of use, because the PCV system, to buy all the bits again, is quite expensive, especially because I'm missing half of them. So I'll probably swap it to a catch can. We'll do another video on that. Also going to do an N249 delete just because I broke it last time I was taking all the cool packs off. I snapped that pipe there. So the 249 delete is actually very simple. You need to ideally get a resistor or leave this 249 plugged in, and then it's just a case of taking a pipe from here down under here and then into the inlet manifold, and then you're basically just running off of engine pressure to switch the the diverter valve, but we'll go into that another day. But yeah, so coolant issues, that is pretty much all you'll need. If you can get one, great. Buy yourself or borrow a coolant pressurizing system, so you can just pressurize that up, and then that allows you to find leaks. If you can't do that, give everything a good clean, get it running. Obviously be aware that it is going to be hot. I don't need to tell you the obvious, but be aware it's going to be hot. But if you can use a torch, use a mirror, and you'll just be able to have a route around and see what you can find. You'll definitely be able to find something, because it's all the coolant pipes on this, none of them are really hidden. They're mostly around, like even this one here, the top one goes around the top here, so if it's got a leak you'll see it. Also check, which I forgot to show you, stick my old camera back on again, this is coming in handy, this is. So here, this is the secondary, so this only applies to 225s. It has this after run pump here, which runs when you turn the engine off to circulate coolant for about 10 or 11 minutes after it is shut off. Now mine's actually leaking a tiny bit. I don't know whether I'll be able to get it on the mirror for you or not. Let's have a go. So you can see there, let's use your mirror. And there was a couple earlier, there was a couple of drips on there. It's still a little bit wet. You can just about see. Maybe you can't see, I don't know. But yeah, so use your mirror like that. And you can just about see onto the bottom of that pipe. And then that pipe goes back from there onto a T-piece, which is all part of this system that goes around to there. So it's all kind of intertwined. Obviously it's all connected because it's a system, but it's very easy to find a coolant issue. It's probably harder to fix it once you've found where it is, because all the pipes are so tight together that it's a bit of a nightmare to get to. But finding a coolant leak on these are really easy. Like I said, if you can get something to pressurize it, if you can't, then run it up, just be mindful that it's hot. And then it is just a case of trying to find where it's coming from. Always worth having some brake cleaner or a brake spray or degreaser or something. Do that when the engine's cold. Give it a wipe, just so there's no obvious joints. Wipe all the joints you can see and go from there. Now, I hope this has been helpful. There will be plenty more videos on this, because this is the gift that keeps giving, this one. Don't forget to check out our kit car builds as well. We do a video every Sunday where we are going to be building a kit car from scratch, because that is, let's be honest, every car guy's dream. More so than fixing an old TT. I'm only kidding. I love you. Please don't break on me again. Right guys, until next time, bye for now.